Hello again to you, and welcome to part 3 of our series on understanding toxic relationships. And the title of our part 3 is Examining Yourself. Are you toxic? Honest self-reflection is important here. Do you manipulate, do you control, or drain others? Seeking God's help to grow in love, grace, and wisdom will be called for. And our anchor verse is taken from Lamentation chapter 3 verse 40, which says, "Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord." The focus word here is examining. And when we examine, it means it's something close. When we test, it means we try it. We turn it to the left, we turn it to the right. We look at it critically. And if we look at it and we realize that we failed the test, then there is an invitation for us to return to the Lord, as the verse suggests. It's easy to point fingers, but sometimes we need to check ourselves. We're talking about toxicity in relationships, and it's easy to think others are toxic, meanwhile we could be the toxic one. So the purpose of this part today is that we'll ask ourselves vital questions. Are we quick to anger? In our way that we relate, whether in the family, at work, in the church, with our friends, are we quick to anger? Are we overly critical? We criticize, we pick on people, we look for things that we could even leave to pass, but we must talk about it, and we must talk about it in a way that can be offensive. And in our way of relating with others, are we emotionally draining? Are we overbearing? How do you relate with the people in your life? I want to invite you to allow God to work on your heart so you don't become what you despise. You are despising toxicity, but you are equally and even more so toxic. Does your presence most often spoil the ambience or great atmosphere in a room? Do you come in and meet people laughing and joyful, at peace, at ease, relaxed? But immediately you come, you have the impression that the atmosphere changes, people's attitude changes. Do you often hurt others by your words, your attitude, or gesture? Do you have the impression that most often you are doing something and you think, or the way you communicate, you think there's nothing wrong about it, but often you hear people say they are offended, they are hurt by your words, by your attitude, by your gesture? Do you find pleasure in belittling others or criticizing them in a derogatory way? Those are signs of toxicity, and you being a vehicle that produces that. If that be your case, then it's not only about others being toxic, but it's also about you being a toxic person. The practical example I want to leave with you today is the story of Lisa. Lisa realized she often manipulated her husband with silent treatment when she didn't get her way. She would use all kinds of means, but that was a toxic way because she was playing on him mentally and not getting her way naturally from her husband. She had to manipulate her way in, use devious means to get what she wanted. But the good part of the story is that she prayed for change and started communicating with grace. She acknowledged that her methods were not right, and she acknowledged that to herself first, and she decided to make a change. She took time to pray about it because she knew it was beyond her personal ability. After you have examined yourself, I still want to add to that a few more questions that will help you to quickly and truly, sincerely identify what's going on in your relationship and specifically in your own life. The first question I'll ask you is, are there ways you've hurt others with toxic behaviors? Have you had toxic behavior in a way that has offended people and it looks like it's a repeated pattern? Secondly, how do you handle conflict in your relationships? Is it with grace or with manipulation? Do you do things that do not look like naturally you trying to make up? Do you manipulate by one way or the other? What I mean by manipulation is maybe you start raising your voice, or maybe you start using big words, or you start justifying, or you start being like the victim. The third thing I want you to reflect on is, what steps can you take to become a healthier person in relationships? After examining, definitely you will see the area in which you are having a toxic behavior. I want to invite you to put down some steps, purpose in your heart, and purpose that you will do it for real. How you can make amends, how you can work in a better way in your different relationships. Whatever you identify as the area where you are manifesting a toxic behavior, I want to invite you to purposefully, plan on steps that you will take to become a healthier person in your different relationships. Thank you. God bless you, and see you again very soon for our part 4, which will be biblical boundaries and what does God say about toxicity.